Welcome everybody. My name's Don Snake. I'm from the iMoot team, and I'd just like to do a quick introduction to Paula Clough, from the US, who's doing a presentation on quizzes in the database module. You all right to take it from here, Paula?
Yes, thank you, Dom. I appreciate it.
No worries.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. Dom says my audio is nice and loud. If any of you can't hear me, let me know. If it's too loud, please turn it down on your computer. I'm more afraid of not being heard than being a little loud. It's nice to meet all of you, and I'm glad that you're able to come to the iMoot. This is my third iMoot, and I always enjoy it every year. I always get a lot of good ideas. And it always reminds me of what a community Moodle is. That's one of the things I like best about it, is that it's not just a business organization, it's a community of people that use it and that are trying to make it better. I want to present some creative, inspired uses for the quiz in the database module. This is the first time I've presented online, so I don't know how well I'll do with the chats and things. If you have a question and I don't notice it, just please put your hand up in the interface so I know that you have one. I'm not going to be presenting on the basics of how to make a quiz or a database. You can find that information somewhere else. But I am going to try to present some ideas that I've gleaned from other places and developed for myself or for other people that I work with. And I hope that you'll enjoy it, and I hope it'll lead you to be creative in more ways. And let us know about your creativity. So let us know about some of the things that you think of. We will have a forum on the course page where you can share ideas if you want to as well after the presentation. I am a retired teacher, actually. And I brought Moodle to the K-12 district I was at when I retired and moved to Iowa. I decided I liked Moodle so much I had to find a place where I could do it. So I'm working at Clark University as an e-learning support specialist. And so I work with the students and the instructors on Moodle and all the other technologies that we have. I also volunteer on freemoodle.org. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, you might want to check it. Feel free to contact me with the contacts on this PowerPoint if you have any questions or if you need some help with anything. And contact me through moodle.org. I'm on the forums somewhat, working full-time. Sometimes I don't get on there as much as I'd like to. I want you to understand, one of the things I like best about Moodle, I have already said that, is the community, but also the way that we share things. When I first started in Moodle, the way that I learned a lot more about how to use Moodle was by downloading some courses that people had posted in different places, and I found the Moodle Exchange at that time, which has now become Moodle.net, and was able to download some courses and able to download some glossary entries and things like that, and learn more and more about how people were using it, different ways that they could use it. So sharing to me is very, very important. Now, I don't want you to go out to the course page right now, but I want you to know as we're going through that there is a forum for some questions, if you have any, and if you want to post some creative ideas that you have thought about while we were doing this presentation or afterwards. And they don't have to be ideas just for the database or the quizzes. They can be for other Moodle modules as well. Also in the course is a database that has the presets to a lot of the databases that I'm going to talk to you about and show you, and some of the question XML files so that you can so you can download those, and a book on formatting tables. It's an IMS version of the book, and that IMS file is also in the preset database, so you can download that if you'd like to have it. Please excuse the last few pages in it. I didn't have time to make them fancy and put all the pictures in I would have liked to have put in, but the information is there. That is good for the tiny MCE editing that we use in most of the versions of Moodle. It won't be effective for the newer versions that are using another editing window, but when I get to that version of it, I'll make another book for you. And that one I'll be sharing out on Moodle.net as soon as I get it fixed up just a little bit more. And of course, a copy of this PowerPoint. So you can go there after the presentation if you want more information or if you want to download some of that. I want to get you in the habit of seeing more uses for the Moodle modules and being creative about how you use them, making them meet your needs. I also want to show you that I know databases are extra work, but I want to show you that I think they're worth the extra work, and I want to get you sharing too if I can. I'm going to actually reverse the order of presentation. Instead of doing quizzes first, I'm going to do the databases first. I want to know, I'm assuming that you guys have your hands available to you underneath the users window. Have any of you used the database module in Moodle? If you have, please raise your hand. Don't see any hands. Ah, there they come. Okay, we have a few people who have. Great. Great. Now, if you haven't, don't worry. That was one of the last things I learned to use because to me they were kind of intimidating. Okay? Not only did you have to create the new activity, but you had to know what you wanted in it because you had to create all the fields. It does have default templates for the different pages, but you can change them. But it's kind of intimidating when you think that that's a possibility too. And you had to have all of this information, get it all set up before you can even start. We're going to talk about that. Yes, I know it's extra work and it takes some extra thinking, but I want to give you some ideas on some of the things that you could do with them. And then I think I'm going to show to you that it's not quite as much work as you think it is. And it's actually worth it. One of the nicest things about the database is it's hugely flexible. You can choose what kind of information is going to be posted. You can choose how it's going to be posted in a lot of ways. You can make the screens that it's going to show different layouts if you'd like. You can search it, not just a general search, but you can also search it by any particular field that you want to search it by. You can make it private between the instructor and the students, or you can make it so that it's shareable with everybody. And just the shareability of the database is really, really a big feature. We can share what we call presets, which will load the fields and the templates. We can also share the entries in a comma-separated file, CSV file. It won't include any of the pictures or any of the files, but it will include the entries. I think that those features really make up for the amount of work it takes to set it up. One of the things it can do is make life easier for you as an instructor. Okay, here's one that a teacher set up. This is one that was on the Moodle Exchange quite a while ago for collecting quiz and test questions. So this teacher had the students make up questions for the test. And not only did he have them make up questions and tell them if they thought it was easy or not, but he also listed the standards or the objectives that were part of the unit that they were studying, and the students had to identify which ones of those would go with this particular question. Made the students think on a whole different level. Also, though, the teacher didn't have a pile of papers that he had to sit there and go through and see what it was, what all those different questions were. This is the default for the view list. Okay, so if I set up a database and I don't change any of my templates at all, this is what my view list is going to look like. Here's the names of the categories here. Then over on the right is where all the information is from the database entry. Here's another one, an individual student repository. This is a place for students to upload files that they need for the class. Now, this started a long time ago before we had the nice private files area that we do now in Moodle 2, but I think there's still a place for it. Sometimes an instructor wants to keep track of what kind of progress students are making on a presentation or something like that, and this way they would have access to it, where it is in the private files area, the instructor doesn't have access to those. They can go in and look and make sure that Billy, who's always slow on getting his work out, actually has some slides in his PowerPoint a week before the PowerPoint is due. You can give it privacy from the other students in a couple of ways, one of which is turning approval on. On the settings page, you say, it says require approval, you say yes, and then don't approve them. If you don't approve them, nobody else in the class can see that except the instructor and the student, and that gives them privacy. It's really nice too for when you have students doing work and you want to check it before it actually goes out for the other students to see to make sure it's complete or appropriate. The other way you can set up privacy is to use separate group setting on the editing page and then make a group for each student with just that student in it. Again, you get privacy for the student, but the teacher can look at what the student is putting in. And this as well is the default setting for this list view page. This one has, again, here's the names of the fields, and then here's where the information is. Now, if I did a download export of this particular database, I would not get these files here. They would not export. And it also gives students access to their files at home. They can log into Moodle, grab their files they were working on at school, and have them available, and then upload them again, and they're ready to go for school the next day. There's all kinds of forms that would make our life easier that we have to keep track of. Some of it's as simple as things as when I was teaching 5th grade, I had a little form that I gave the students to find out what some of their interests and things were. Other things for administrators could be student referrals that they have to keep track of. Having it in a database, you can set up exactly the fields exactly for what you want. Things that you have your students fill out, you could have them out and you could have them fill it out online and not even have to mess with the paperwork. Somebody asked, what about if the files are exported to a folio? Do you get the files? Okay, that depends on how you're doing your portfolio and what kind of portfolio you have set up, Chantel. I'm not sure. We haven't done portfolios that much, so I don't have that knowledge. Anyway, so databases can save you a lot of organizing and putting information in as well. Also, they're downloadable into Excel, so then you can go in and do the statistical analysis that you want to do with Excel after you've downloaded the information. That tool makes them really good for students to use too. This was the first one I came across in the Moodle Exchange that had this awesome template. Now, you got to remember, I'm learning when I'm looking at these, and I'm learning, I'm going, wow, how did they do that? So I downloaded the preset, put it in, and started looking at it, and finally figured out that the majority of it was just changing the font size, telling the cells which ones you wanted to have the borders on them, and coloring the cells. That it's actually not that difficult if you've used Word tables a little bit and done some fancy stuff with them. It's not that hard to do, but the information on how to do some of those basics is in that book and in my course page, and I think that'll help you out. This particular one was a database that he put together, and this single view page of the database was projected on his board every morning, and it has the objective, it has the date, it has the journal prompt so they can sit down and get started writing their journals, and also information down here for the students that were absent so that they know what they have to do to make up for the day. And maybe even a link out to a video or something that they watched in class. Awesome way to get the information out there for the students and make it easy for the teacher as well. Keep forgetting that the click is down at the bottom. Assignments and sharing. Now this, most of the modules when we look at Moodle, we think of assignments first. Okay, so there's some different kinds of assignments. One thing that we did is had a research project that students worked on. They were in separate groups. Each group studied one biome in depth and then had to present to the rest of the class. They used the database that we had here to upload some of their information and the pictures that they wanted and things like that. And because they can get back and keep editing this, it also became their teaching presentation tool. They didn't have to make a PowerPoint. They just used this page of the database to show the students the information as they explained and taught about the biome. The background in here, the colored, the turquoise and the gray, all we did was go in and change the background colors in the table. It also makes a nice link for sharing the knowledge. Students can go back in there and refer to it and be able to look up the knowledge or look up the information that they have been studying about the biomes. And it could also be used with other classes. They could actually have a meta link into this course and activity, or they could export the information. They couldn't export the pictures, but they could export the information, and the other teacher could set it up so that their students could use it. Other ideas for sharing. Sharing is what databases do very, very well. Teachers could have their own course with databases in there to share their unit plans and their lesson plans, or their resources, or their quizzes and glossaries and database presets can be saved in there so that they can share with each other. Students, just like that research project as a resource, but also they could add, if there's a text area for them in there, they could add their report, and then other students could go in and look at it and give them feedback on it. They could share websites that they found that are useful for whatever topic there is they're studying, and course notes. You could have a student put in the course notes for the day. Every day, just change students who's going to do it, so students make sure that they keep up with what was important, and the students who missed have something that they can look up. Here's another one I really like. This was in the Moodle forums. An example that was posted of a book review. It allows for ratings with stars. It also lets the students choose the genre, post a written review, and there's even a place to post a link to a video review if they wanted to do that. Now this top part is the list view, and they went in and with the templates, they actually put it out straight across instead of coming down. Okay, so it's coming out straight across. They made the tables go across, and those actually, the names of the book actually link to the single view when you click on them, and this is the way the single view comes up. Again, some merging some of the cells in the template, and then coloring them using the cell properties or the table properties so that they can get that to work the way they wanted to. Now, when I saw this one, as far as presets and templates go, knocked my socks off. This was in the Moodle Exchange. This is a teacher that had students go out and look for samples of conversational elements that they were studying in YouTube videos. They identified the sample and then identified where it began in seconds in the video and where it ended. Okay, and then the template will automatically show them the YouTube video, embed it in the single view or the list view, and when they click on the start, it will, after it's been running for just a second, it will take them forward to where it is they told the template that example started. It's awesome. Also, on his add edit template, he added a picture right here that shows them exactly what part of the URL of that YouTube video was needed in order to get this to work. So they knew exactly. They didn't have to remember from somewhere else. And then also some instructions on how to figure out the beginning time in seconds, making sure that the students got it exactly right. And that's one I definitely preset I downloaded, took apart in the HTML to see how it was working. That one you would need to probably go in to put in the embed code and things like that to make it work well, but it'll work. Another thing is sometimes we want to have a very similar type of assignment, but we're going to do it repeated times. This teacher uses the database very similarly to what we used to call the online assignment, except they're all together. He added checkboxes up at the top with the 4 different topics that the students have to talk about in the assignment. Then down here on the side, he gave them the information that they need to think about in each assignment. They don't have to keep their assignment page open and do the assignment. All of the basic materials that they have to know, that they have to make sure that they reply to in each one of these posts is right there. Now, the yellow background in here was done just by going into table properties and setting the entire table to that yellow color. Getting this not to take over the whole thing so it became clear over to here and we had this long white thing going down and down and down and down the page. All we had to do was highlight that column, go into cell properties, and I set that at 30% for the column width on that. Now you can also set it in pixels from there if you want, or you can set it in percentage. I like percentage better because it works better when people have smaller and larger screens. Here's another journal. We had the journal plugin when we had 1.9, and when we were upgraded to Moodle 2, the journal plugin wasn't ready, so our teachers started using the databases, and we've just stuck with them. This particular one, sorry, I can get this, I'll just guess where it's at. I have something for the whiteboard sticking out in front of me. Every time I go over there, whoops, there it went. I don't know if you guys are seeing it or not. Okay, on the side, he actually wanted all of the database entries, all of the journal entries in one database so he could watch the growth over the semester. So he set up radio buttons over here on the right that had each week listed so that they could go through and click on the week that they were replying to. And then, okay, great. Thank you for letting me know, Dom. And then this is an entry point. Now, I used to have a name place and a date place until I discovered in the templates that there's a action command that will let me put the user and the date that it was added and the date that it was modified into the view list and view single templates. So I didn't even need those. So I took them out, but I still have the blocks in there because we have to redo the whole database to get them out on that page. He set privacy settings, and he only rates the ones that are at least satisfactory and uses sum of grades. The way that we set up the privacy settings on this one is, since we knew how many they were going to actually put in, we said that they required 16 right here, but the maximum number was 16. They cannot post more than 16 entries. And then entries before viewing, I set at 50, which is the most you could set, because this instructor likes to change things around, and I didn't want him to add up to 20 and then find out that he'd gone over the top and students were able to see each other's posts. So I just set it at the max. But it doesn't have to be that much higher. But anything higher than what they could actually enter, they will not be able to see each other's posts. So privacy is assured automatically. Here's another very, very simple one. This was for one of our Spanish classes, and they wanted an entry, but they wanted a separate journal database for each week. So we just set up just in the add edit page, it's just the text area for them to type into. And then she duplicates the journal and passes it, moves it down in the topic for each week. We set up one entry for completion. One is the maximum number they can enter, and they have to have 10 before viewing, so it's private. And if you want to make it so it's seeable, all you have to do is change this one down to the number that they put in. One interesting thing is on this one, the only time they see the add entry page is that first time that they go in and add it. After that, they can't see it. It doesn't even come back up. That tab does not come back up at the top to allow them to make another entry. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about those shortcuts that I've kind of alluded to that are going to make it easier for you to use the databases. One of the things is when you've done all that work and got it to work and then you want it in another class, you don't want to have to do all that work again. Yes, if you're in the same network, you can probably import it in. You won't get the entries, but you will get the setup. Or if you want to share it with another teacher, you can use the presets to do that. Now these can be exported and imported. There is one preset in core. This is the image gallery. So that one, anybody can use. Any of you should have that in there if you're above, I think it's Moodle 2.2, I believe, has that. I don't remember if Moodle 2 itself had it. Also, system presets can be added by an administrator. So I, as an administrator, can take the journal assignment and go ahead and add that to my system presets. So if I have one like that one that I think a lot of instructors are going to want to use, I can put it right in there, and then the instructors don't have to worry about downloading a preset and uploading it. All you do is click on the one you want and click choose, and it goes. It contains just the fields and then all of the templates that you created. If you're just using the default templates, it leaves them exactly the way they are. If you put in some fancy HTML or some fancy use on your tables, that will follow it into the next one. Really makes it short work and makes it worth the work because you know you can use it again and again and you don't have to do all that work again. Here's an example of the image gallery. This one was a field trip follow-up that was in the Moodle recipes. I don't know if you remember, that was in the Teaching with Moodle area for a while, and they had a database in there where people could load some ideas on teaching with Moodle. This was one where students went on a field trip and they took pictures of animals, and then they also had to type in the caption something that had to do with the image that they captured and the concept that they were learning about in their class. So if it was how, what different animals eat, which were carnivores and herbivores or whatever it was. So this was easy to set up because the preset is just part of the system. You go and set it up. It sets up the template, so this view list has this really nice little gallery. You click on one of those and it goes straight to your single view that shows you just that picture and the caption so you can read it. And you do need to turn on comments and the ratings if you want to use those. Here's another one. This one, Mary L., who also was helping me on the Moodle Exchange for a while. She uploaded one on co-evaluation, being able to have students upload an image and then they each self-evaluate and then they evaluate and comment on each other's. One thing that she did that's really important is she told the students the size that she wanted it. If you don't tell students that, they're going to have huge pictures and little teeny tiny bitty pictures. If you give them some kind of size range, if they're old enough to do that, and have them edit their pictures down a little bit or whatever they need to do so that it's easier for everybody to see them, especially nowadays when everybody has different size screens, when we're not using the same ones. The other thing she did is to double check and make sure that the permissions were set for the students to be able to rate and comment as well as the teacher. This is also a good place to use custom scales. I don't know if you guys know about that, but if you go to the grades part of the settings or administration block, under that is scales, and you go in there and you can create your own scales for your own class. So if you wanted to add little bitty 5 stars, and 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, you can do that. Or you can add ones that you want students to use that might not have anything to do with what a teacher would use. Like, that's awesome, or I didn't quite get your point, whatever it is. Just remember when you add those to always start with if it has a value, you start with the lowest one first, not the highest one, and separate them by commas. It's really easy to do. If you get one that a lot of your teachers want to do, talk to your system admin, and they can go in and save it site-wide. So that's the preset for that. Also, in my Moodle course that goes with this, there is a database of presets. This one is nice because it's got nicely colored columns that kind of separate it, make it easier to look at. Also on this view list page, it has the titles across the top, and then each one of the entries goes across instead of down. And this preset is in there. All of the presets that I have access to that I thought you might like are in the course in this database. So yes, Mary L. is good at these. She really is. And she even has this nice little dashed outline around all of the entries. I had to go in and look at the HTML and see what she did. That was awesome. And anyway, all of these are in there. All the ones that I've been using are in there, and you can go in and download them if you want to keep them. Also, there's a file where they're all zipped together. The only thing that's not zipped in there is that IMS for the book, because I was afraid it would make it too big. But, this is an example of that same kind of sharing, but they're all there and you can do them. And like I said, with a little bit of creativity, it not only looks nicer, but it makes it easier to find what you're looking for. Okay. Are there any questions about the databases really quick before we go on to the quizzes? It feels like you're working in a completely different environment. How do you mean that? Like it's different from the Moodle environment? It is very different from most of the modules that you work in. Yes, the total is easy, and you can make it into a super page too. Yes, you can. You're right, Anna. That's one of the things I like about it is if you're new to it and you don't want to mess with all of that, you don't have to. But then when you start seeing what you can do, it's awesome. It's addictive. It really is. Of course, it's like any kind of programming. The more you find out about it, the more you want to know. It really is. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and talk about quizzes. Um, Most people use quizzes. There's very few people that don't use quizzes, and we use them for a variety of things. Um, I'm not saying if you don't use them in any certain way that you're not a good quiz maker. You are, but I just want to expand your ideas. Now, some of you may already be using some of these things, and more power to you. If you are, please share what you're using with us on the forums. We'd really like to see that. There's a forum here and also in Moodle.net. If you want to share samples, that would be great. Um, one of the one of the things I like to do when I'm looking at a module and trying to be more creative with it is look at what the features are that I might not be using. Okay, one of the things that really is nice about the quizzes is that the question bank can be shareable on a massive scale, but you have to have a Moodle administrator on your site that's willing to work with you on it, because that has to be set up by them, and you create a question bank that is shared by certain teachers. This would be like all the biology teachers wanted to share their quizzes, and this administrator would set it up. He'd have to set up an additional role for the whole Moodle so that they could be allowed to go in there and share these questions back and forth. It's not easy to get administrators to understand all the time, because a lot of times those Moodle administrators are not teachers. They're more techie than they are teachers, and you have to be really patient with them and just keep explaining it to them, because they want to help, but they just don't understand what it is you want. But if you can't do that, it's really easy to import and export the questions themselves. And they can go into several different formats. I like the XML format the best. It's very easy to export and import it in. Some people like the GIF better. And make sure, if you want to do much of that, that you actually set your questions up into individual categories by quiz, so it's easy to pick out the ones that you want to share instead of having it export a whole lot of questions. Usually when you're exporting it, it goes by the questions in a category, so if you don't have them separated out, it might take all of the questions that you have. Another feature in quiz that I really had not used when I was teaching is the unlimited retakes possible. I've given more than one attempt, but I haven't ever set it at unlimited. Also remember that there's different modes of feedback, so if you're giving students an adaptive mode or something like that, that you can give them more or less feedback while they're in that than what they would get at the end of the test or after the test is closed. Also, it seems like lately from the forums, I'm seeing some postings that are saying that a lot of teachers aren't really taking advantage of the automated grading in Moodle. So many of the questions, except for the essay, you can have them automatically graded. You don't have to check them. It is possible for that one question that you just thought was so awesome, and then half of the class read it a whole different way. You can go in and manually grade that question so that the students don't lose points because you didn't make as much sense as you thought you did. You can do that, but I like to rely on that as much as possible, saving you time so that on those other questions, like those essay questions, I can really get in there and spend some time grading those. Also, you can download responses to a spreadsheet if you want to, so you can see all on one sheet of paper what the students were answering. And there's also item analysis reports where you can look at how the question was answered and try to get an idea of really how valid of a question that was. Those are things that I look at that I would want to use if I was still teaching in a classroom. But when I'm trying to get creative, that's what I do, is I look at it. Now, one of the things, I'm going to share this little hint with you if you haven't discovered this one yet, because this is one, before we start on all the rest of it, I should have probably put this first, but when they made it possible to duplicate quizzes, we had a lot of people who got really mixed up because they would duplicate the quiz that had already been taken and then change the name on the wrong one. So we came up with the idea of, you know what, make your templates. Make a template and don't put any questions in it. So it'll save all those things that you do. It's like, okay, on my reading, after an assignment, did I let them have 4 tries or did I let them have 3? Things like that you don't have to remember if you have a template set up with all those little settings in it the way you prefer them, and then just don't put any questions in it and hide it from the students. Then you can just duplicate it anytime you want to add a new one to the class, and move it, unhide it, and add your questions, and you're ready to go. Also, too, that way, if you change your mind and decide, you know what, 4 chances is too much, they're doing too much guessing, I'm going to change it to 3, change it on, instead of having to remember to change it when you make a new test, just go ahead and change it in your template, and you're ready to go. One of the things that a lot of people use on quizzes is timing. That helps prevent students from going out and searching on the internet too much because they don't have time to get the quiz done if they are. But another thing that you can use it for is encouraging students that need to build speed of knowledge, is what this teacher called it. She had students who were learning the language as a second language in a business class and a math class, and so she would have vocabulary quizzes that she wanted them to do. She wanted them to understand the meanings well enough that they could pass the test in a certain amount of time. Now, it wasn't who can be the speed, Superman of this and just do it in 1 minute or anything like that. She gave them a good amount of time. But the idea is she didn't want them to spend a lot of time thinking about what the words meant. And hoped that would help them start using those words in their spoken language because they now really did understand what they meant. So she set the practice test up with unlimited attempts, but the same time limit as she was going to have on the regular test. This gave them the actually self-competition, which she found was very motivating to most of the students in the class because they didn't have to worry about anybody else. They only had to worry about themselves and how fast they could go. Now, some of them did share the information, but some of them didn't. Also, she could keep track of the students and see who wasn't making improvement and sit down and talk to them and give them some other strategies for how to study the information. Then when they felt they were ready, they took the regular test. They only got 1 attempt on that one, so the pressure's on to make sure that practice test, you really have it down. And they took it in the same amount of time and then to see how they did. You could use that also. I had a friend who used a similar one for math facts with some students that really needed to understand them better and quit counting on their fingers all the time. And the students really enjoyed it. And then later on, she put one in that used the random questions and just pulled in all different levels of ones for so many questions. And she made that as the reward for finishing one of the independent centers that they had to do. This is younger students, elementary age students, and they had to complete independent group activity. And so if they got their group activity completed in time, they could go ahead and use the computers to do this little time test. And that was a great motivator to keep them on task so that they would finish up on time. Another thing that we've used the timing for is video viewing. Sometimes teachers would ask us, well, you know, I have all these videos in there for them to watch, and then we discuss them and stuff, but how do I know they've even been in there long enough to watch it? Well, one of the ideas we came up with, and I've seen the same thing in the Moodle forums, is dropping it into a quiz, because the quiz is timed. Okay, so it will tell us, if you look down here at the bottom, here's the results. Right on the bottom, it wasn't set up to be timed, but the time is shown on exactly how long it took them to take the test. Now, the quiz can be put in either in a description item or in a question. It's easier if you're not going to ask more than one question to go ahead and put the quiz in the questions part of the question itself, because if you just put it in a description item, you still have to put in another question. You can't get away with not having a question. But the question can be either something about the video or something like how helpful was the video to you or something like that. And then you can look at it. This video was 1 minute 6 seconds long. They watched it for 1 minute 16 seconds. Well, they probably watched the whole thing, but if they did a very long answer, they were typing while they were watching. Okay, so, but that gives me that information. Another thing we use a lot in education is rubrics. And I like rubrics because they tell people exactly, you know, a lot better about what was it in this paper or this presentation that you did well, and what was it where you could improve, and what is the description of those improvements. Sometimes, though, we need students to be able to self-evaluate themselves on a rubric, and we went around and around about this before we thought about, well, why not let them do a quiz? So this particular one is kind of hard to see on this page, on this picture. When I did it to PDF and then brought it in here, it made it kind of hard to see, but this was a group work rubric for group work that they were doing over 4 weeks. So they did one attempt for each of the 4 weeks, but they only got 1 grade. And they self-evaluated on what was going on in the group as far as they were concerned. And this gave the teacher, even though they were touching base with the group, this gave them a way to look at what the dynamics were and things, and make sure that they didn't need to go in and do some work with the group too. This particular one, we made the questions, we put the category explanation in the question, and then in the answers we put the level descriptors, and then we gave them percentages to get the numbers for the answers. So if this was 4 choices, they had points 1 through 4. The 4th choice would be 100%. The next one would be 75%, and so on. So according to which number the student clicked on, that's the number of points they got for that question. And we did have to put in the quiz question that this one was worth 4 points, and then we added all of the points together to make sure that that's what the quiz was worth in the grade book. We also did that, you know, we could have just done each one at 4 if that's all we asked for, but we did that so that if we wanted to, we could add maybe a 1-point question with an essay question, so the students could give us, you know, goals for improvement or something like that. Another one that we did, which I liked even better because we got to play with the tables. In the question, we put a table and with a category, and then each description of the levels. And all of this is we went in and highlighted the column and went into cell properties and changed the color. That's all we did there. And then down here we put the numbers 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now, the nice thing about this is after we did the first one, we discovered, oh, this is the easiest set of questions we ever made, because all we had to do was come up here, click Edit Question. The edit screen comes up. We take out all the old data, paste in the new data from the rubric that we're working from, and then click Save as New. So now we have 2 questions, one with category 1 and one with category 2. And we just did that with all the categories. We didn't have to set the template or the tables back up. It just went really, really good. Yes, these 2 are in the database preset database in the course page, and you can download those questions. Okay, so you can have those. They're more built for elementary to middle school age children than older children, but that's the grades that I have the most experience with. If we have time at the end, we will go in. I'll go into full screen, and I have a place where you can see them, I think. But I decided, since this was my first presentation, I was a little nervous about the full screen, so I will do that at the end. If you want to look at some different samples, I have a place where we can look at them. Thank you. All right. Another thing that teachers like to do sometimes, if they have the opportunity, and online we have this wonderful opportunity of being able to do things with students before the class actually starts. We can find things out about our students when we're working in a regular classroom. Sometimes we don't have that opportunity. Some teachers like to give a pre-test to test background knowledge to see if students really have the background or if they're going to have to do some interventions for them. Another thing a lot of teachers like to do is have the students go in and explore around the class. This particular teacher does it in a couple of different ways using the quiz. One of the ways he does it is the quiz itself. He invites them to go into the class and explore around, and then they go into this quiz that's open up for students, and they have to do this before the class actually starts. And then the quiz asks them, did you read the syllabus? And they answer yes or no. Did you explore the Moodle site? And did you find the glossary, or whatever? And if they check no, the next question says, if you check no that you did not explore the Moodle site, please go back and look for the glossary. And they go out of the attempt, go look around, come back in and see it. Also gives them a place to post agreements that have to be made about cheating and things like that. He can post them there and have a question of yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree. Also, he can set out the course expectations. I really like that because to me, that's really hands-on. But I liked his other way too, because he did it as if the quiz was almost like a lesson in how to take the class. So he set his quiz up in this other class with everything in it. He had syllabus was in there on several different pages. Sometimes he used the description items. Sometimes he used the top of the question and then had a multiple choice answers at the bottom to make sure they were understanding what they were doing. Also, he had some little tutorials in there on how to do some of the different things in Moodle, and it was all set up within the quiz. And they had to do this before the class started. Well, so it was awesome. I really, really liked it. Now, those 2 I don't have the presets, the questions for, because it's in an active class. I really can't. And there's some proprietary information in there. I couldn't do that, but I think the idea is great. But what do you do with the kid that's a late registration? Or the student that really didn't get it done and you do still want them to do it? Well, there is now in quizzes is the user and group overrides, where you can go in and change the settings for only one student or a group of students or several students. Okay, and I think this is awesome. This is because before, if a student was absent or something, you had to open the quiz so that they could take it and then close and remember to close the quiz back down. This way, when you go into the overrides, you go in and select your student, and then you just change when the quiz closes. You're done. So they have that much time to get it done, and then it closes by itself. Or if you have a student that for some reason needs to take another attempt, you can add another attempt down here that's different from what it is on the settings page. You can also give them more time. If it's a student that has reading problems or something and they're allowed more time, you can give them more time separate from everybody else in the group. And you don't have to make. Yes, it's in the quiz settings. You open up the quiz and look in the administration box, and there's an area that says user and group overrides. There's one for group overrides and there's one for user overrides. It's really nice too if you have the whole basketball team in your class and they're always going off on a trip and they miss a few quizzes, you can set it up so they can take their quiz before they leave or after they get back, depending on what you want to do. Okay. And if you have a whole team of people, you can make up a group in your class so that instead of having to add all of those players individually, you just add the group into the group overrides and you're done. I think that is so fantastic, and a lot of people don't know about that. Okay. Thank you, Mary. Mary just posted the link for that, so you can see how to do that. Another thing that's great, if you did do a pre-test before or any test in there, is you can use the test data along with activity completion or restricted access to actually guide the students into where they need to be. You can have review activities that are set up in your class and hidden so that nobody can see them, except you have them set up so that if on this particular quiz they make between 1% and 65% on this quiz, it's going to this review activity is going to show up for them, and they take it. But those students who got 100 or 85 or anything, they never even see that review activity. They don't even know it's there. I think that's fantastic. Another thing you can do with quizzes, and this is kind of the same thing, is use it like a lesson. Now, we're not replacing the lesson. Now, don't you say I said that. I did not say that. Lessons are fantastic. There's many things that they do that you can't do with anything else in Moodle. But there are times when the lesson can be used to deliver that content, maybe more easily. I mean, when the quiz can be used a little more easily than the lesson, especially as in the forums when one teacher that uses lessons a lot needed on this particular one for the students to be able to review the answers to their questions from one attempt to the next, and he also had a lot of essay questions and he wanted to be able to grade them more easily, and it was suggested that he use the quiz. Okay, so what can we do to share content in the quiz and make it interactive? Well, there's some features in the quiz that will help with that interactivity. And I'm not going to explain them all because you can go in and look this stuff up, and in the forums there's lots of people like Mary, like me, like a lot of other people out there who'd be willing to help you. But if you go into how the questions behave, there's different ways of setting it up, and you probably have all seen these. Adaptive mode is really good for this. Deferred feedback is probably more what you do when you're doing a regular quiz or test. There's immediate feedback and the interactive with multiple tries. I hadn't seen that one before. That one really intrigues me. I really want to do some more work with that one. Then also the review options that you have, you can set different things to show up during the attempt than what they see after or when the quiz is actually closed. So you can do a lot of playing around with these in order to make that work even better for your students for content delivery. Also, remembering quizzes, now you have a choice between whether they navigate in sequence or freely through the quiz. So if you want them to go in a very structured way through that quiz, you're going to want to change that to have them go in sequence. when you're making it interactive, one of the things I discovered that I hadn't used before, and again, I need to play more with quizzes. I'm not teaching in the classroom as much now. I've got a couple of teachers, I think, though, that will let me play with some of their quizzes. You can adapt it and use hints so that if they miss it once, they get a hint. Also, in the interactive mode, the thing I discovered is there's one that says each attempt builds on the last. If you check that and make it into a yes instead of a no, they can complete the quiz over several attempts. So they can do part of it when they come back in for the next attempt. It will show what they already answered, so that then they can go on from there and keep going. So it's all right there, which again, if you're just trying to get across the content, that might be a better way to use it. Something to think about and play with. Also, when you're setting up your quiz, you can add, when you're in these modes, you can get help here, and they get it wrong. They get a little help message there. You can actually set up links in there now. Okay, and I thought this was awesome. So you can set up a link that takes them out to either something in your course that's going to help them review what is the point that they're missing here, or out on the internet, or a picture out there somewhere that shows them that they can look at and figure out what the answer is. The one thing you're going to want to do is when you set up the link, and it's kind of hard to see here, but I have it outlined, and my regular PowerPoint that's in the course will show this better than the PDF does. Where it says target, we usually just leave that the same, and it just it takes us to that in the window. Set it up so it opens up in a new window, which will also, on modern browsers, will open it in a new tab. But that way they can go look at it and then exit out of it or hit the tab to go back to the quiz, and they're not actually leaving the quiz and coming back. Okay, but you can give them those links that they need to get more information. Now, too, you can add questions and media and pics more than you could before. There was a time when so many of the answers were just little text entry box and weren't really edit boxes. Most of the questions were, but most of the answers weren't. And nowadays, there's so many that have the edit boxes. Wherever those are, you can add media in. So this is a multiple choice question. It has an audio file right here that gives them the information auditorily of what they're supposed to do, as well as the same information is here. And then I've added pictures. Now, one hint on this, I decided to make all the pictures the same width so that they would come out looking about the same. I wouldn't have a big, huge one and a little teeny tiny one. They'd at least be close. Here's a matching question. I was able to get an audio file in the question part of it, but I was not able to get it in the answer part. The answer part had to be text. But still, an awesome kind of a test, and awesome for delivering content too. Just a second. Good point, Carrie. I think you're right. We do need to change out things and make them kind of exciting for kids. I agree. Awesome idea, Carrie. Really good. Okay. Also, I want you to think about, yes, much faster to grade. Okay, another area I want you to think about is quizzes. Just like databases can keep a hold of details for you and kind of make life easier for you. Okay, so one of the ideas, this is from Moodle Recipes. This is somebody who was going on a trip with a bunch of students, and they wanted to collect all of the emergency contact information, choices at the conference, like are you going to want beef or chicken or vegetarian for lunch at the banquet on Thursday, possible health issues, any other information that they needed to have to make life easier for them was in this quiz. So the students went in, filled out the quiz. They could really easily check and see who hadn't done it yet and get them on it. And then when they finished it, not only is that all that information available online, but they can download it in an Excel spreadsheet, do a little formatting to make it easier to read and print it off. So they also have a printed copy to go with them in case they need it. Thank you. I'm almost done, guys. This is a text proctor information test that was also in Moodle Recipes, where they had an online class that they had to proctor the tests. And they actually had a form that they had to download and have the proctor fill out and send in. But this gave them the information of when the test was, who the proctor was, and so that they knew it was coming. And last but not least, checklists for your students or for yourself. If you have a project that's going on and it's pretty intricate and you want to make sure that the students know all of the things that they have to do, you can have it in a quiz. This would work in a database too, where they go in and they check off each thing as they do them. Then you can check it and see what kind of progress they're making. Okay, and as I said, you can go to Moodle.net for more content. On the page, you can download backup files of courses that are being shared. You can also look for courses that you can actually enroll in. But over here on the right, where this blue arrow is pointing, there's a link there. Click on that, and it's going to take you out to a database that has things that people are sharing, just like they used to share in the Moodle Exchange. This is the same thing. Sharing SCORM packages, glossary entries, database presets, all those kind of things. So if you see something there that you want to use, you can go for it. You will need to log in. The login up here, you just use your Moodle.org login. Tell it you're going to use that. Make sure you're logged into Moodle.org and it'll let you go. Yes, I will be sharing my own stuff, Mary. The things that I've created, as soon as I get them cleaned up just a little bit, are going on there. So if you want that formatting tables book, it will also be there in a few weeks as soon as I get the rest of the pictures and stuff in it. And a couple of my presets, I've learned some new things about them writing this presentation, and I'll get them in there. Yes, we want everybody to share. Thank you, Mary. Would you like to say a few words, Mary?
You are now unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
hi. I was just going to post some of the links actually.
Okay.
Yes, from the school demo site. It's similar. Some of the things that Paula has talked about, and again another way to share them. I'll just post it into here. There is a whole course called Activity Examples, which has examples in glossaries, quizzes, and databases. And also, Thomas, who used to work for Moodle, he had the Moodle recipes. There's a course which has them there as well, so I'll link that. I'll link to that as well. And then just to repeat that, if you have any of your own individual items then please consider sharing them to Moodle.net. One of the things that we found when discussing the whole site, Moodle.net, which is a course sharing site, is that some teachers are a bit too shy to share whole courses because they're afraid that maybe they're not perfect or they're not good enough. And yet they may well have in that course a really good database preset or a really good set of quiz questions. And so if you don't want to share a whole course, then by all means, there is a space which Paula's got her arrow there, the big blue arrow, to share just one small item of it. And maybe you would be less reticent to do that. So I just thought I'd highlight that again. I'm going to mute myself again now. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary, for bringing that up. Thank you very, very much. And does anybody have any questions? Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Remember to go to the course page, and you can download all of those, a lot of those presets and some of the questions. I don't have all of them in there, but a majority of them are. Thank you. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it.